Okay, good day students. In this workshop we're going to cover how to create this A3 document. This is going to help you with your preparation for AAL to put all this information together. Okay, pretty straightforward. I want to show you these techniques. I know that you guys can use other softwares, but I just want to give you a good in-depth understanding on how these posters will work, etc. Okay, so for this exercise I'm going to create this basic sheet and then copy the sheet multiple times. So you can see group 1, you can change the numbers for now, but for this exercise I just want you to understand how to put these together and how you can work collaboratively with each other. Okay, so there's a bit of work that goes into these to get things the right size. A lot of your posters sometimes might get very large if you're not using the correct image sizes. Inkscape doesn't really, it embeds the full image size. It's a bit of a bug that we found in Inkscape with regards to the import settings with Inkscape. So something's very strange, it keeps image sizes, so it's something that's a bit strange that we need to resolve. Okay, but in a nutshell, how do we go about setting up this A3 document? Okay, so the first thing you need to do is open up Inkscape, start a blank document. Okay, so once you've got a blank document open, I'm just going to close some of these settings. If you don't have the same tabs over here, I will open them again to show you where this information is found. Okay, so I'll get rid of symbols, I'll just explain export, I can get rid of that as well. Okay, so in essence, right click on your document, go to document properties. We're going to set up this document to the correct size. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is go and set up the document to the correct size. I'm going to change this to an ISO A3 and I want this a landscape just like this. Great, so I've got my document set up. Now we need to start working with some resources. So I'm going to give you the text file as well. There's going to be some text files, etc. Okay, so we've got your document to the right size. Just make sure everything is correct. Okay, very important. A3 exactly. Okay, now another setting, you might have to close the document to sort this out. Please note I have found a bug in this relation. Keep everything at 96 dpi. Your resolution to create a bitmap copy, leave it as it is for now. Whatever it is, we'll leave it as it is. I'll explain later on when this will start getting more important, and I'll share a separate video on how to fix this. Okay. Okay, in essence, we've got our A3 sheet set up. Okay, now we're going to need some resources to populate this, to create that PDF example that I've showed you earlier. All we need to do is go to the Teams page. You'll have a link to this. You're going to go to, there'll be a link provided. You're going to go to A3 Poster. So you're going to simply go and download this whole folder. Download, it'll come in a zip package. So you're going to say download. Okay. Go and open file location, so you're going to say shown folder, this will download. Now what you need to do is, for the time being, move this folder to a location where you're going to work. Okay, so your C drive, your D drive, so you can't lose the data, it's very important. Put it somewhere where you're going to work from, don't put it in downloads, please move it somewhere where you're going to work, so in case you need to use the information, you lose information, you can access it correctly. Okay, so I'm going to say cut it, I'm going to cut it off this, I'm going to put it on my desktop for now. So I'm just going to dump this on my desktop. Paste. Paste. Okay, it should paste it. Here it is on my desktop. All you need to do is that you need to unzip it. So it depends what unzipping software you have. Just right click and it'll ask you, I use ZZip, but you will have other options to unzip this file. Okay, so please, most of you should be able to unzip this. So I'm just going to say extract here. I'm going to say extract to this folder. Okay. I've done this exact workflow. I'm just showing you how to, I can delete that now because technically I've got all the information that I need on my computer. Okay. So technically you can cut and paste all this information out, put it where you need to work. I want you to have all of this information. You're going to have a PDF, you're going to have some text here as well, which you're going to copy and paste. Okay, and you've got a PDF that we're going to look at as well. Okay, so close that for now. That's the PDF, and this is the example that we're trying to reproduce. Okay, great. All right, so now once you've got this on your computer, I've unpackaged all of this. I'm going to delete it for now. I've unpackaged all of this into my workshop folder. So you're seeing exactly the same thing. Please note, if you click on some of these images, I'm trying to simulate what happens to a lot of you on your phones. These image sizes are going to vary wildly and they're going to have different resolutions the whole time. Okay, so I've just noticed some of your phones are causing issues with regards to these posters and making them very large. There are other workflows that improves this, but we'll get to that once we'll start using some different software. But for now, I'm just giving you the fundamentals on how to use Inkscape. So we need all this information to create our poster. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a minute. First things first, I'm going to go to my page settings once I'm back in here. We know all that information is on our desktop. So once I create my page, you can see here at any point I can go and change the page, shape. We'll use the other options for now. All I want to do is add a margin around my page of 5 mil. Okay, that's very important. Okay, now just click away. We click the select tool, you should be in your sheet. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a guide. Now this guide needs to be a certain distance. Okay, so I'm going to switch this off. It should give you its location. You can see this location here. I'm going to use a bit of maths to put it 1/3 from the left-hand side, sorry, the right-hand side of the sheet. Okay, so all you're going to do, because I know that this is an A3, so it's 420 times by 0.666. Okay, that's 1/3 in essence. If you go and use a maths equation, 2 divided by 3, this is what you're going to get. So I know that this is 1/3 of my sheet. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a grid down. I'm going to snap it to the top. I'm going to grab another one. I'm going to snap it to the bottom. All I'm going to do now is double click on this guide. And I'm going to move it relative to location. And I'm going in the Y direction. I'm going to move it 20 mil. Okay, so I'm going to have 20 mil in this direction. I'm just setting up where my font's going to go. I'm just kind of organizing my sheet, how it will work. Same deal from the bottom. This will be -20 in the Y direction. Okay, this is the Y axis, this is X. When you start using CAD, this will make a lot more sense. Okay, now try and use your layers best as you can. You see that you have layers, you can add more layers, layer 1, 2. I try and name these images, background. For now, I'm just going to use one layer. We can tackle this a bit later on. When you start doing more complex, you want to put certain things in different layers so you can manage them, switch them on and off. But for this exercise, I'm not going to go into too much detail with regards to the layers. I might put a layer for text, so maybe let me just add a layer for text maybe. So I want to put all my font in a layer that will sit above everything. Technically font and that will always sit above all the graphics, and this one I can call graphics, okay? Or images, totally up to you. I'm just going to keep this as, I was going to call this I just want to keep it short because sometimes the names get a bit, just say objects. Okay, you can start labeling these as you see fit, totally up to you. Okay, now based on that example we had a look at, just want to open the example. So based on this example, we've divided the sheet. It's not necessary that you divide the sheet strictly like mine, but I think understand what I'm doing will help you a lot in terms of making these images, making these posters read correctly. Okay, you see there's not a lot of background graphics, and I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, now that I've kind of set up my sheet, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use some line tools. So I'm going to use this line tool. And I'm going to snap, and you'll see that you've got some snap settings over here. You can use these to snap onto different objects. So you've got, if you go to advanced mode, you can snap onto a whole lot of information in this drawing. So that's quite handy to know. So I'm going to use the line tool. I'm not too worried about any of this information for now because we'll start looking at how to sort it out. So I'm just going to start drawing from there to there. Okay, so I've got a line. Press enter to finish the command. Now I'm going to use the node tool, and I'm going to stretch this to, okay, if you're going to move information, so with the node tool selected, if you move this up and you hold control down, it'll lock it on an axis, X and Y, and I'm going to snap it to that guide with the page. Okay, so that's a guide, it's a 5 mil guide with a page. So that's your page, your print area or your margin for your page. Okay, drag this down, I'm going to snap that to there. So with this first bit of line weight, or line work, you can see in objects I've got a path. If you want to move these between layers, you can simply drag and drop them. Okay, so that's quite handy to know how to move these, because it just means that I can switch everything off in this layer, and I can control and I can lock information in this layer. Especially if you've done a lot of work, you want to start locking these layers so you don't delete stuff by accident. Okay, and remember this works in a draw order, so the top text will always be above everything else. So this is like a series of sheets that you've stacked on each other. Okay. Alright, so we've got that bit of line work. Now, if you go to the fill and stroke command, if it's not open, you can go to paths. If you go and see objects, fill and stroke, you can switch on all of these tools over here, like symbols. Okay, fill and stroke, it's on. Okay, it's active. Now, remember, there won't be a fill, so don't switch on a fill. You're just after the stroke color. So here you can play with the color, and here we can play with the width of the color. I'm going to make this quite thick. I'm going to make it 1 mil thick. Okay, so if I zoom in and I measure that with a ruler, it'll be 1 mil. Okay, now you can go and change the color wheel and how these works. You can drag and select colors, but there's also a color palette where you can select colors from a color palette at the bottom, and you can actually go and build these swatches. For now, I'm just using Inkscape default, and if you click on the settings icon over here, or you click this arrow down, so you just go here again and you go to configure, you can change the way this looks. I've used 4 rows for now. Sometimes I think 3 rows. Set this up so it works with you. You can change with the tile size. Okay, find something that's appropriate that works with your display. Now that I'm starting to draw, I can just say, so if you hover at the bottom here, so if you just hover, if I click now, so if you watch the text at the bottom here, if I click this gray, it will fill, but I'm not after the fill, I'm looking for shift click to make it a stroke color. So, and you'll see that my current stroke color, there's no fill currently for this object, and I've got just remember the object has to be active. Okay, so the object has to be selected. In your layers, you can also select the layer, so that will determine what's selected. So if I hold, so remember shift and I click gray, you would have noticed it changed. And if I click on this object again, your layer is a great place to select objects. You can see that that's my stroke color. Okay, great. So that's my first little hurdle. The next thing I want to do, I want to start pulling in some text. Okay, so you can type this text. I'm going to copy and paste this, but it's pretty straightforward. Now, whatever object you use last, it will adopt that color. But there are ways we can start copying. Once you've established a palette, it's very easy to change things. Okay, so let me grab some text. Now with the text, I would use Century Gothic, so please find Century Gothic, make sure it's normal. And for the heading, we're going to make this 10 mil for now, 10 mil high. Okay, and I'm going to start drawing a rectangle. Just start drawing a rectangle for now. I'm just going to get some text quickly, so I don't want to take a little time typing all of this out. Undo, sorry. So in the text command, sorry, let's do that again. Now, if you've added a text object by accident, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Go to this layer, make that the active layer, and now draw. And you'll see, if you've selected that as an active layer, everything will, I don't know, use Control V in here. Okay, then copy. So I'm going to select the text, Control A. So if you want to activate the text command, Control V. Okay, now I've copied some text. Now we do have a slight problem. If you check with the fill and stroke functions, we've got something is not working correctly, because if you go to fill and stroke, you'll notice that this is copied, the stroke is too thick. So I would just adjust this to 0.2. Totally up to you. 0.5. Okay, so you've got a lot of power to change this. Okay, stroke, fill. So with the fill command, you can also use the fill for the same color. So I can select the same color as fill, and I don't actually need a stroke in essence. So now it's just filling the text. So maybe that's a better way. Okay, so now you can see how using fill and stroke. So for text, I would not use, just know that you've got that functionality. I will remove the stroke and just focus on the fill. Okay, so text typically has a fill, and you play with the colors here, or you use the colors here as well. I'm going to use a faded red color for this, and I'm using the standard palette, and I'm going to move this. If I move the text, you still snap onto these guides, and you can be quite precise of how you move this down. I'm just finding a location that works for me. Just remember, if you want to edit the text again, you select the text tool, and you edit. You can go and edit. This is controlling what you see, so just be careful with what you, how much context you show. Okay, but I'm happy with that. Now, I've got a bit of text. I can simply go and duplicate this text over here, duplicate. So text 5 or text 7, and I can move this one across. And if you hold Control down, it'll lock it on the XY axis, is what you want to do. Okay, if you're going to move it again, Control again, and I'm going to move it in this direction. I'm going to activate the text. So the text tool was active, and you double click, change it to work from that direction, and I'll need to move this. Okay, so don't move that one. I want to move this one to this side. So maybe about there. I'm going to double click and I'll make it 0, 1. Okay, so page 0, 1 or page 1, totally up to you. Okay, so quite quick. We've got some text. Okay, you can rename this text, totally up to you. Okay, I've got some text at the bottom, so I'm going to go. So you can duplicate, right click, duplicate every time, but I can right click on the text and I can say duplicate from here. So this is where, if you don't want to see this for the time being, or you want to change things, you can lock this or switch it off for now. That's relays do work well. I'm going to select this text just like this. It doesn't matter with, make sure that you've got the selection tool active. You're going to use Control D. You'll see you would have duplicated it. Now if I drag this down, hold Control down, use your, and you're going to move this right down to the bottom. Okay, right down to the bottom. And then maybe this text, I can dump it at the bottom. I can also nudge it up. But you can also be quite accurate. You can say this needs to be 280 from the bottom. Or, so you can be very accurate with the text placement. That's quite neat. Then I'm just going to move this to this side. Remember, hold Control down. I'm going to move it to this side. And then just nudge it a bit. You can line it up with the text above, totally up to you. Now that I'm going to leave, double click in here. I'm going to change this. So let's just change this from there to there, and I'm going to change it like that. I'm going to type group. So just name the group. Whatever group you're in, you can nudge the text. Okay. Typically, Control, I like to use that because it gives me a safe margin. You'll notice the text at the top will have the same little icon, and you can Control, you can snap that to there. So it gives you a nice safe margin around the text. Okay, while I'm still on the text, I need to put some body text in here very quickly. So please note that I've copied all of these on the text layers, and I can control it very easily. Okay, now I'm going to use some more text. So I'm going to use the text tool again. I'm going to snap anywhere and over here, and I'm going to drag this down. So maybe it needs to go down further. Okay. Now I've given you a text file. So if you go to your files, open your text files, I want you to copy and paste the first couple of lines. So you can just select everything. Okay, this is a text file, so it's very hard to select everything, but if you just select the first bit of text and you hold shift and you use the nudge keys down, it'll be able to select all the text. Control C. I'm copying this text I'm giving you. Don't have to go and retype this, by the way. And I'm going to go Control V. Okay, now the text is too high, so I need to double check and make this 3 mil maybe. Now that's working way better. And I'm going to change the location. Now I'm not happy with the font color, so I'm going to change that to a gray. I'd maybe make it a darkish gray, so it's still legible, but it's not totally, it has a bit of a contrast with regards to the other surrounding graphics. Okay, so I'm quite happy with this end result. I'm going to pull this a bit in this direction. So I know that my text will end there. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to use the selection tool. Now I need to move this information to the right location. Provide a buffer. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this text again. I'm going to go Control D, duplicate. I'm going to pull this down, hold Control down. Now I've got a second line of text that I need to use here. So hold Control, use the text tool, make sure that's active, double click, Control A. Okay, now there is another tool that we can use. If you go to text and you go to text and font, it opens up this feature which allows me to quickly go and change. Sometimes this is a way better workflow than trying to follow the commands that I've used. Sometimes this is a way better workflow by using this text tool. It will save you a lot more time on where this information is and how to change the text. You can change the font styles very quickly, you can make things italic, totally up to you. Just remember you need to use the apply button at the bottom. Okay, so once I've got the text selected, select the text. Now I'm going to move this text down. Okay, so select text again, Control, I'm locking on X and Y. Okay, so I'm going to snap this down. That's fine. Great, so I've got my text. So with my text in place, I can lock the text layer for now. It just means that I can't accidentally delete it or move it around. Okay. Now the next part of this graphic, and this is going to be totally up to you, and I want you to try and make this work yourselves. You can pick any two symbols that you can use in here. Now, remember Inkscape is vector, it's not raster. Most of the graphics you want to use to save a lot of space or make these things work efficiently. You don't want to work with too many raster images, you want to work with a lot of vector images. So part of Inkscape and a lot of software packages has this functionality. If you go to objects and you've got a symbols, you switch on your symbols, you'll notice that it'll open up a docker over here which allow you to insert symbols. Okay, so now that the symbols has loaded, you've got a whole lot of symbols now that you can use. Okay, these symbols you can make yourself, it's quite straightforward and easy, but I just want you to put two symbols in here. Pick any which ones you want. I'm going to grab this one for now. It's going to be different to my example. I'll drop them in. Just remember vector graphics, they never pixelate and they're very light when you work with them. Okay, so I'm going to drag in the beach. Okay, I might have put it on the lock layer, so be careful. Okay, so just make sure the layer is active, so just be careful if you are going to work with graphics. Okay, you'll notice that we can edit these as well, and I'll show you that in a minute, and I'm just going to grab this water one. Okay, I'm going to put these side by side. Okay, now I'm going to size one of these to fit into this gap, so I'm going to grab one of these, make sure that this is locked, and I'm going to size it to fit into this gap. So maybe like that. Okay, that will work. Just remember if you double click, you can rotate these as well. Okay, now I'm going to change this to be 60 by 60. Change this one, 60 by 60. Okay, sometimes these won't fit, you might have to change them again. So let's just put them side by side. Okay, that will work. That will work. So I'm going to move it a bit away. Okay, now when you're working with these graphics sometimes, when you're starting to have a lot of graphics in your view, you might find these things will get misaligned. Inkscape will try and line things up, but not always. So you're going to have to use some tools that will help you. So if you go to objects and you go to I just want to get a line and transformation, it'll open up another little tool over here. So if I select the first image, you can tell it how to work. It doesn't really matter for now. So if you say relative to page or first selection, you can then line these objects up. So you can make sure that they align with each other. And then you can space these out. Okay. Once you've created these two together, once you've created them, you can select both and you can right click on any one of them and you can make these a group. What's important, groups work well because now they will work together as a group. So that's quite handy. So it's a group. Remember, if you can access each one of these individually, so that's quite neat. If you select the group as a whole, I can also apply some edits. So if I go and say fill and stroke, you can see now I can apply fills and I can add stroke colors. So for now I'm just going to make these slightly gray just so it works with my presentation theme. Okay, So please add these, it's your own discretion, go wild. Okay, right, so now I've started the graphics, I've got the text in. Okay, now the next step that we need to do. So these are my objects, these are my text layers. Okay, now the next part of this exercise is I need to start working with some images. Now this is a bit of a downside with Inkscape. If you don't get the image sizes correctly and you export this as a PDF, the image sizes get very large. However, if you're exporting this as an image or another format, the image, it will actually do the processing for you. So it's a problem with the PDFs that we've been experiencing. Yeah, it's the strangest thing, who knows why. But I think this is a good practice to understand how this works and how to use Inkscape correctly if you're going to be working with a lot of graphics and images. Okay, so I know that this is an A3 and I'm looking to recreate my presentation as follows. Okay, now in order to bring this image in, I'm going to work with an image that I know is a certain size. Okay, so let's close this. So I'm going to open up GIMP. This is where GIMP comes in, because remember GIMP is, you're using GIMP to edit your images. Okay, I'm going to start a new image, new. This is very important, advanced settings, make sure 300 dpi and make sure RGB color, you want 8-bit integer. I want your settings to be exactly the same as this. If there's an issue, click reset. Okay, but remember A3 and I want this to be a landscape. Press OK. Because I'm working with an A3 sheet, I just want to make sure that the image that I'm working with fits my document. Now that I've got this image in, I'm going to go to File and I'm going to go to, you can delete this layer by the way. So select this layer and just delete the layer because we're going to bring in a whole new sheet. So I'm going to go File, Open as Layer. So I'm going to go open as layer, file, open as layer. I'm going to go to desktop, I'm going to go to workshop, I'm going to grab the PDF. Okay, so this will bring in the PDF. Now this is a good exercise to explain what's actually going on. If I bring this in, remember this was on an A1 sheet, you will notice that this is way larger than my A3 sheet. So all I need to do is position my information that I need in the right location, and then I just need to cut it out. So I'm going to move it just like that. I'm happy with that. And I'm going to press layer to image size. I'm going to get rid of all the redundant information, layer to image size. Now all they're going to do is use the crop tool. So remember crop tool, and you're going to use the delete pixels. Remember you want to delete everything. And I'm going to select just this portion here for group 1. So I'm going to select just this information for now. While that selection is active, you can be quite selective of what you want to select. So I'm going to move that like that. I'm just selecting enough information around the edges so it's kind of proportional. Okay, so now we're converting a PDF to a roster. Okay, I'm happy with this result and I'm going to trim this now, just like this. Now I need to export this as an image. So I'm going to go to File, Export As. Now, File, Export As. So we've set up the image to the correct size and I want to change this to a JPEG. Remember you can go and save file extensions at the bottom here, go and find JPEG. Okay. Now, on my desktop I've made a folder called links. Okay, and it's called map. I'm just going to overwrite the map one for now. I'm not going to override it, but I'm just going to call it map new and I'll explain the rest. I might do one or two, it's just because it's linked to another document. So where you're busy working, make a folder called links and you're going to start working in that links folder. Okay, this is important. I'm going to go map new. So N. So I know it's my new map. Now when you're going to go and export, make sure that you load defaults and it must look exactly like this. Now in advanced options, for the type of print, I'm going to change my resampling to the lowest possible. It just means that we're working at a much higher DPI, but we're not working with a high-res screen. We're going to be printing these at a later stage, so it doesn't have to, you don't need all the true color, because when you're printing on paper, you lose a lot of the true color that you would see on a display. Okay, so I'm going to export that as map new. Now, if I'm in Inkscape, I'm going to go to File, import, and on desktop, I'm going to go to links. I'm going to go and find my map new. Okay, open. Now, what's interesting, if you've created this and you're going to use the link function, you don't want to embed this. I'll explain why. You're going to use link and you're going to say DPI from file, just like I've done here. Press OK. So what this will do, it will bring in my image. Okay, so you see my image has come in, and now I'm going to nudge the image to work with my presentation. I'm going to put it somewhere in the middle. Okay, so this is quite neat in the sense that this will actually work really well, and I'm getting the right information, and it'll look a lot like the example I've given you. Okay, so cut out the image, put this in the middle. All right, move it in the right location. Okay, so we're in the home stretch now. We just got to do a couple of other little workflows to get this to look good. And I'll try and center this with the grid so it's kind of even. Great. Good. Now, before I start dragging in a bunch of other images, I need to determine if I'm going to have callouts or other images, how big they need to be. Okay, for your own posters, you're going to follow your own principle. For this workshop, you're going to follow my guide. So I'm going to go and create a circle. So if you're creating a circle and you hold shift down or control, you'll see it will operate in a different way. I want to use the control function. I want to make this a perfect circle. Okay, so once I've created the circle and I use the select tool and I select the object or the circle, you'll see I'll be able to change the size of the circle. Just make sure that the long function's enabled. Okay, good. Now that I've got this image in place, you can go and move these around. You can go and plan your, so for example, Control D, Control D, Control D. You can go and plan these. You can plan your presentation correctly. Use the circles to plan your presentation. You can use the space tool, so divide things evenly. Just remember, you might want to lock that to the bottom. Okay. Just make sure I haven't changed the size of anything, because that will happen. Just be careful you haven't done that. So let's move this. You want to use this to lock and align. You can even snap it to the image for now. Likewise with this one, snap it. Then I can go, okay, I want to divide all of those. Remember, from first selected, it doesn't matter. Now, I want to align these to the center, to that first object. Now, with all of them selected, I can move all of them. Remember, control, and I'm going to put them more or less in the right location. Good. I can see that this will work, so I'm going to stick with circles for now. Good, you can use squares, totally up to you. Now that I've got the circle, I need to start populating it with all these other images that I want to show. Okay, sorry, my other display is missing now. Typical. Okay, so I want to show you this again. So we want to create this effect. Okay, now these images that you've downloaded, if you go and click on them, you're going to notice they're all different sizes. 3 meg, and that's typical. Your phones, sometimes your phone images are very large, but remember, this needs to be a 60 by 60 millimeter image on the sheet. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to, let's close that for now. I'm going to jump back to GIMP. So I'm going to start a new image. Okay, so this image, I'm going to call this, I'm going to change it to millimeters. I'm going to make this 60 by 60. 60 by 60. Good. It will round it off. It doesn't matter. We'll sort that out later in the presentation. Now, you want to keep all this information just like this, and you press OK. You can delete the background for now. It's not required. Now, all that you need to start doing, and I'll recommend you do this for all of these images in one file swoop. I'm just going to do one, but you're going to repeat the process for all your images as per my example. So I'm going to drag and drop this image into my view, and you'll notice now that that image is way larger than my canvas size. So you'll need to go and scale these images. So scale these images. You'll need to make this work with the canvas size. So a quick way to do this is change this to 60, scale, so we know that that's correct, so we don't have to worry about that. And in view, you must switch on snap to canvas edge. Now if I move these, you'll see it'll snap to the canvas edge, just like this. Nudge it up and down with the arrow keys, get it in the right location. Once you've got the right size, you right click, layer to image size, then you go File, Export as JPEG. I'm going to go 01 just as an example, so I'm going to make it 01, but I'm going to put a new to show you the workflow. So I'm going to call it 01. I'm going to go to Export. Now, You don't want this to be, again, advanced settings. Make sure that it keeps the setting. Okay, you can save these defaults and then it'll always do it, but for now just remember that's how you want to do it. You can keep deleting this layer and dragging in the photos every time to repeat this process. So I would go and do that now. Do that process, get all these images to the right size that match how I've set it up. In my folder, you'll notice, so I'll just open that folder very quickly. So if I just go back to my desktop and I go to links, you'll see that I've populated this with all those images to the correct size. If you right click on these, you'll notice that they're all the same size. They're all very small. Okay, so if you go to details, you'll notice these are all very small. Okay, they're the right size for the presentation. All that I'll do now is I'm going to drag in that image now. So I'm going to go to File, Import. Again, this should be exactly the right size. I'm going to use the new one for now. Open, Embed, Link, just like that. So I'm going to move this and put this in this location. Now, I'm going to use these two together. So I'm going to select both and I'm going to use this tool to align them with each other exactly. Now, this is the only little step that you need to understand. I'm going to move the image down and I want the path above. So I'm going to select the path and the image. So hold shift down to select both. I'm going to go to Object, I'm going to say clip, I'm going to say set clip. So what it'll do, it will actually crop that image to the right size as per my example. You can use squares or circles for your own presentation, but I thought this is quite an advanced technique. It's quite a handy technique to learn how to do this. I'm going to create one more circle again. You don't have to make it the right size because you can use this command to quickly get it to the right size, so 60 by 60. Again, the reason why I'm bringing back a circle is I don't want to fill, so I select no fill. I want a stroke of a, so pick, sorry, no fill, and use shift and select. I just want a color for the border, and I'm going to make this a red color. So select a red that works, and now that I've got a path around this image, okay, so I can make this a group now, but for now, I'm going to leave it as is because I'll explain what we're going to do in a second. Okay, so now that I've got, okay, let's just change the fill. I'm going to change my stroke path. So this I'm going to make about 0.8. So it's a nice thick line around my image. Okay, now if you go to layers, that path will sit above the image. Okay, this symbol is just telling you that there is a clip, and this image, you can switch this image off, is this image here. Okay, I'm just doing this to get this set up. So with both selected, I'm going to move this, I'm going to put this in the right location. Now you can eyeball it, as long as it kind of reads correctly, you can use, okay. So these objects now, I'm going to use Control D. Control D. Okay, I'm going to undo this. I'm going to make this a group. I'm going to go Control D, Control D, Control D. So I'm just creating a series of these. I'm going to align this to the bottom like I did my other one. I'm going to do that. I'll make too many copies, so I'm going to move this one and put that there. Ooh, okay, I see what happened there. So let's see if I didn't do the same there. Let's Control Z. I've done duplicates here, so let's just get rid of that. Control D. I'm going to put this one at the top. Okay, now snap that to there. So snap that to the corner, just like that. Select all of these, and you're going to go and use this command. I'm going to space them out evenly, and then first object, I'm going to align them. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to go and say I'm going to move these. Remember, hold Control down so it locks it in XY direction. Then I'm going to go Control D again. I'm going to duplicate these once more. So I'm just setting up my basic presentation for now. Good. Now, if you go and you select all these groups, you can ungroup them all. Ungroup all. Ungroup. Now, if the subgroups, you can go and do that again. Totally up to you. What I'm after are the images. Okay, so this image, if you right click on the image, when you go to Object Properties, now with this embed, I can go and tell it I can go and pick which image they need to be. So I've used this image to help me set up all my other images. I'm going to say image 1. I'm going to select this image. So just make sure every time you select an image, so this will be image 2. Okay, sorry, links. I'm going to go image 2, open. Open. Sorry, I have noticed this machine is lagging at the moment, so image 3. So there's a quick way to plan how all this works. I'm going to pause this. By the time you get back, these would have been done. Okay, so now that I've got all my images in and I've got the presentation looking correct, I'm going to close this objects, and you can drag this a bit closer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to make this a group. You don't have to make this a group because it's easy to control. I'm going to make all of those a group. Make group. Okay. Now, with these selected, you can see they're much easier to handle as groups, and each group you can switch on and off. It just makes things a lot more easier to handle. Now with all of them selected, I can now use this space tool and it'll space these automatically. Then I can play around with getting this stuff centered on my sheet, but I'm quite happy with the result. Okay. Now the last thing I've got left to do is I need to draw some markers. Okay, and you're going to draw one and you're going to copy these multiple times. For this exercise, I'm going to draw one, you're going to draw multiple. So I'm going to go back to my line tool and I'm going to grab anywhere on here and drag and select something that I'm referencing. Press enter. Now with this selected, you'll see it gives me a path. If I go to fill and stroke, I can leave that as it is. All I need to do is add an arrow. So you've got a whole series of different points and arrows that you can use as a reference. So now that I've created one of these, and what's quite interesting, I can select this, I can go and select same, I can say stroke color, and I can go and edit all of them on the fly to something a bit more, my apologies, you must hold shift down, you'll see it'll change that red color. So I'm creating a bit of a difference between that red line. I think that reads better. Now if you want to use more of these, again, in your layer command, shift D, duplicate it, move this down. You're going to use the node tool. Now with node tools, just remember sometimes if you select in the middle, it will create this weird shape. You can use these weird shapes, select all the nodes, and then you just make it straight again and it sorts that problem out. So just remember, if that does happen, now you can grab this node, now you can reference something. So grab the handle, you're going to move this, undo. There was another node. That, if you select a node and you press delete, it will delete that node, and if you want to straighten everything again, you just click straighten. Okay, now this node will allow you to, select away, grab this node, snap it onto this edge. Now you can snap this to anything in the drawing. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video and stop it here. Please go and add all the corresponding nodes as per my example. But you can see shift duplicate, they're very easy to use. So make sure you don't have that selected, copy it down. It will show if there's copies here. Select node tool, snap it to something, put it to the right location, just like that. Okay, all right, now we're in the home stretch. What I need you to do is add some more pages to this, because you're going to do a 4-page presentation. So all you need to do now is click on the pages option. Now with your pages selected like we did previously, I'm going to add 3 more pages. You'll see it's added 3 more pages. Now if you see at the bottom here, you can then select what page you want to be looking at, so you can use this tool to go and see. All I want you to do is copy the text. So unlock your text layer, select that, hold shift down, select that, shift just like that, and I want you to grab these graphics maybe. So hold shift down, I'll explain why, shift. Okay, now if I go to page 2 and I go to, let's go back to page 1 and I go to edit copy, I go to page 2 and I go to edit paste on page. So paste paste on page, you'll see that this puts this information in exactly the right place. Okay, so let me just go back to page 1. I'll explain why. I want this line to come as well. So edit, copy, go back to this page, edit, paste in place, so paste on page. Good. Now I can copy all of this information, Control C, go to page 3, edit, paste on page, paste, Control Z, edit, paste on page. You want to use the paste on page function, otherwise it doesn't put it in the right location. And I'm going to use my last page, edit, paste on page. Okay, good. Right, so now if we go and look at our example, you'll see that I've copied this information across and I've created all of my pages. So this is a great way to work and create these presentations and work with images that are the correct size and quite organized. Okay, so this is quite powerful. You can go and change the page numbers now on each page. Just remember you've got the text tool, so here you can simply go and change it here. Totally up to you. Okay, just remember you need to use the apply function. O2 apply. Okay, totally up to you. Now that you've set this up, all you need to do now is use the export command. So you're going to go File, Export. Export, you're going to say Document or Pages. I'm going to say Pages. You can say Selection, Custom, totally up to you. I'm going to say Pages. Alright, so now I'm going to change this to PDF. PDF and settings, make sure in settings that the export resolution is at 300 dpi. You can see it selected all the pages. Now I want you to go and find a location on your computer where you're going to export this. Remember, you'll need to upload this. So save this on your desktop anywhere, because you're going to upload this for me. Put it somewhere where you're working as well. So put it where you're going to work. I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to call this A3, PNG, A3, A3. It's not PNG, just make sure that you change it to PDF, very important. I'm going to save it as A3 PDF. I also want you to save this as an SVG file, so give it a couple seconds, it will export. Good, it has. File, save as, and it should be an SVG file. So please name these files correctly as per the example provided and upload these to the file I've given you. Okay, so please upload all these files to the location. I'm going to call this A3. But you're going to name this with your name, A3, SVG, put in your name, okay, and your student number. I'll give you a naming convention. So you're going to go save. Then you need to upload both of these files. So I can close this because I've saved the document. So in Workshop, you'll need to upload these two files for me, but remember, name them correctly as per the name that I'm going to specify. But if you open this up now, you'll see that you've got an A3 presentation. Thank you.